Well, it looks like the Jacksonville Jaguars will not be getting wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk after all. And if this is why, I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty ticked off right now. Welcome everybody to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jaguar 9, representing the 904 from the 602, and today we're talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars and their pursuit for a wide receiver one. They lost out on Calvin Ridley after he got a 4-year contract in Tennessee worth $92 million, $50 million guaranteed, which I've talked about at length on this channel, the whole Calvin Ridley saga. Well, now the Jaguars need a wide receiver one very badly. It's the biggest need on the team. They need a guy that can go deep, stretch the field that way. And we were wondering, will they sign a guy in free agency like Mike Williams? Will they draft a guy? Will they trade for a guy? Well, we know the answer to that question in terms of what they want to do, and that was trade for wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk, according to multiple sources with both the Jaguars and the 49ers. The Jaguars really want to acquire the former Arizona State man Brandon Aiyuk, coming off an amazing season with the Niners, back-to-back years with 1,000 yards receiving. Last year, an AP second-team All-Pro member, 75 catches, 1,342 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Very, very good player. And the Jaguars were interested in him. The Jaguars were absolutely interested in him, according to multiple sources, but it looks like that trade possibility is fizzling out. This, according to Mia O'Brien, who is a very, very reliable reporter for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I followed her for years. Go give her a follow if you haven't already. She said, as I noted, 49ers reportedly would have wanted pick number 17 overall, so Jacksonville's first-round pick, and Zay Jones. The Jaguars would then have to pay Aiyuk, so it is fizzling out. So long story short, the Niners wanted to get Zay Jones, and they wanted Jacksonville's first-round pick, and in exchange, the Jaguars would get Brandon Aiyuk. The Jags would then have to pay Aiyuk, because obviously you're not going to give him a first-round pick for a 1-year rental. That would be a really, really stupid thing to do, and it seems like that is too high of an asking point for Trent Baalke, so it looks like the trade is not going to happen. Which raises the question, why? Trent Baalke, why? This is more than reasonable. This is more than reasonable. Brandon Aiyuk is one of the best receivers in football. You could get a really good receiver with pick number 17. You could also get a really bad receiver. Brandon Aiyuk is young. Brandon Aiyuk is a top 10 receiver in football. You're telling me you're going to miss out on this deal because you don't want to give up pick number 17 and you have to give up Zay Jones, who might not even make the team as it is? Trent Baalke's history with wide receivers drafting is terrible. Absolutely terrible. So if that's why, if you want to draft a wide receiver round 1 and you want him to be less expensive, it's a huge gamble. Look at Baalke's history drafting wide receivers. He's drafted 8 in his career as a GM, spanning about a decade. Ronald Johnson in 2011, no catches. A.J. Jenkins, 2012, that was a first-round pick. 17 catches, 223 yards, no touchdowns. One of the biggest Niners busts of all time. Quinton Patton in 2013, 73 catches, 880 yards, and a touchdown. This is over their entire career, folks. This is over their entire career, not their best season or anything like that. This is their entire career. Bruce Ellington in 2014, 79 catches, 769 yards, 5 touchdowns. DeAndre Smelter in 2015, 1 catch, 23 yards. Aaron Burbridge in 2016, 7 catches, 88 yards. Jalen Camp in 2021 with the Jaguars, he did not make the team and he's done nothing in the NFL. And then Parker Washington last year out of Penn State, 16 catches, 132 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And he legitimately might be the best receiver that Trent Baalke has ever drafted in his career. Again, no knock on Parker Washington. I like the guy. I think he's got a lot of potential. He's good depth, don't get me wrong. But if he's the best receiver you drafted in a decade as a GM, you've got issues. You can't draft wide receivers. Trent Baalke cannot draft wide receivers. Brandon Aiyuk, his worst season. Brandon Aiyuk's worst season in 2021, 56 catches, 826 yards, 5 touchdowns. That's his worst season. The best career of any Trent Baalke wide receiver was Bruce Ellington with 5 touchdowns, which is the worst season that Brandon Aiyuk has had. The worst season that Aiyuk had, 2021, I think everyone agrees that was his worst season. He got benched at one point by Kyle Shanahan. Worst season, 826 yards receiving. The best career of any Trent Baalke receiver, Quinton Patton, 880 yards. So it's like the mystery box in Family Guy. A wide receiver that you draft could be anything. It could even be Brandon Aiyuk. And it'd be different if we're talking about a guy that's on the wrong side of 30, but no, we're talking about a young receiver who would still be on his fifth-year option this season. If this is the holdup, I'm furious. If this is the holdup, and I'm leaning to believe this report is true because Matt O'Brien's very reliable, and Dilla, another Jaguars insider, said the same thing, that talks were fizzling out, and it looks like that ship has sailed. You're giving up a player that will probably not make the roster as it is in Zay Jones, and you get Brandon Aiyuk, and you're getting a guy who's a top 10 receiver, and with pick number 17, you're probably going to draft a receiver as it is, who you hope can be Brandon Aiyuk. Now, you might be saying, okay, what about the cap hit? What about the cap? Because obviously, Brandon Aiyuk, he's got the 50-year option, and that's it. You got to sign to a long-term deal. You could easily do it. It's not that hard. It's honestly not that hard. First off, Aiyuk is not costing a lot of money this year because of the 50-year option. But you need about $7 million in effective cap space for your draft picks if you don't have a first-round pick. You can make moves to free up space if you absolutely need to. You might not have to, but if you absolutely need to make moves, it is super, super easy without impacting the team whatsoever. For one, if you believe that Brennan Strange makes the jump to tight end too, and you better believe he can make the jump to the second-string tight end because you drafted him in the second round last year when you didn't need him, you can get rid of Luke Farrell. Look, I like Luke Farrell, don't get me wrong, but that frees up $1 million. Farrell's only costing you $89,000 in dead cap. You can make that move if you need to. And you don't even have to make that move. I'm not crazy about that move, but you don't have to make that move. Adam Gotsis, how often is he going to play this year? Honestly, how often is he going to play? You just added Eric Armstead. You just got Travis Gibson, which I like as a depth signing. He's only cost you $125,000 in dead cap. He's cost you about $1.5 million in cap space. You free up about $1.25 million that way. CJ Beathard, he's not making the team. You just traded for Matt Jones. So why would you trade for Matt Jones if you believe in CJ Beathard as the backup? You can cut him. That frees up $2 million. Wide receiver, Tim Jones, cut him. $985,000 you just freed up that way. Tim Jones has done nothing in Jacksonville. He's done absolutely nothing during his time with the Jaguars. Honestly, if you run 5 wide, Brandon Aiyuk, Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, Parker Washington, I'd probably take Elijah Cooks over Tim Jones. And Cooks has cost you absolutely nothing. Then again, they might draft a guy still. I have no problem with that. But Tim Jones, I would not take him over Elijah Cooks. And Elijah Cooks is dirt cheap. Tim Jones, you free up $1 million. Chandler Brewer or Cole Van Laden. You're not keeping both of those interior linemen since you added Mitch Morse. You didn't get rid of anyone on the interior of the offensive line. You do that, you free up $1 million that way. Riley Patterson, you just signed Joey Sly, a kicker. You're not keeping 2 kickers. Patterson's cost you a $1.1 million cap hit. You can get rid of him. You can free up a ton of cap space by getting rid of guys that aren't going to make the team as it is, or if they are, they're not going to play at all. So this should not be a holdup whatsoever. Just make the trade, get a wide receiver 1, a young receiver that you can have for the next 7-8 years, re-sign him to the contract that he deserves, and give Trevor Lawrence the weapons that he needs to succeed. Right now, would I have more confidence in this team for the next 5 years with Brandon Aiyuk signed to a long-term contract, or with the first-round pick that we have that Trent Baalke can screw up like he screwed up with just about every single wide receiver he's drafted in his career? I'm taking Brandon Aiyuk, no questions asked. If this is the holdup, like, what are we doing here? If this is the holdup, what are we doing here? You're telling me you have to give up a first-round pick for a second-team All-Pro receiver who's had back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving years for a wide receiver in his 20s, his mid-20s, who is entering the prime of his career. You have to give him a first-round pick and a guy that's not going to make the team, has an injury history, and is on the older side of things, relatively speaking. Yeah, you do it. You do it. You absolutely do it. If that's the holdup, I cannot believe this move is fizzling out. I'll tell you this much. If I were Jacksonville's GM, I would take that deal any day of the week and then figure it out. I would take that deal any day of the week, figure it out cap space-wise, because it's worth it. It is 100% worth it, and I would really want to have Brandon Aiyuk. And if that's the price, if that's the asking point, oh, sign me up. But Trent Baalke might think otherwise. And I like a lot of what he's done this free agency period. Just at wide receiver, he's botched a lot. And if this is what he botched with Brandon Aiyuk, and if this is why he's not coming, oh man, this team just cannot get out of its own way. But it's early on. Price might go down during the draft. It might go down as the weeks go on. We'll see. Hopefully Brandon Aiyuk becomes a Jaguar. Looks like they're talking, but looks like it's fizzling out because of the price point and the asking point, which is more than reasonable in my opinion. But Baalke doesn't seem to think so. Then again, Baalke's not that good at negotiating. He's not that good at trading, seeing as he had all these day 3 draft picks last year and was able to trade a grand total of none of them. and he said that he was trying to trade the picks, but he couldn't find any takers, which just means you were a god-awful negotiator. But we'll see what happens. What are your thoughts on this news? Do you think Brandon Aiyuk will stay a 49er? Do you think he will go to the Jaguars? Do you think this is a very fair asking point by the 49ers? Do you think they're asking for too much? Do you think it should be a second-round pick? Maybe multiple day 2 picks? What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments down below. That's going to do it for this episode of GG9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, Jaguar9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, this is Jaguar9 signing off. And as always, go Jags.